Hi, I'm Neal Ronaghan, director of NintendoWorldReport.com, and I'm here today on Nintendo World Rapport with Jools Watsham from Renegade Kid.
Hey man, how you doing?
So today's a little bit of a weird day because literally
Yeah.
minutes before we were going to go live, which maybe it was foretold that I was going to get delayed a little bit because we were supposed to start about 20 minutes ago, but I was running a few minutes late, and as I was about to get ready, the news broke that Nintendo's president Satoru Iwata passed away at the age of 55, which is absolutely crushing.
It is. It's
Um,
very
he
sad.
he
Yeah.
was he was a legend. Like there's no way around that, and I mean, it sucks. He's been the president of the company since I believe 2003, 2002, and he's brought them through good times, brought them through bad times, and was really just a presence for Nintendo fans everywhere. He hosted countless Nintendo Directs, the Iwata Ask series, and all of that. And Jules, I guess as a game developer, like how do you feel about what Iwata's done, even as someone who hasn't met him?
I mean, well, I mean, as just a gamer first, before even about just making games, I mean, it's really hard to comprehend that, he's such a integral, iconic piece of Nintendo. All the Nintendo Directs, and he's so visually been presented more than any other president in Nintendo's history. We've seen him so much. It's going to be so weird to have a Nintendo Direct without him. We lovingly make fun of him and all of his fun physical attributes as far as please understand all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's just going to be really sad to not see him again in that way. But as a developer, yeah, obviously, I think a big part of his legacy obviously is the Wii, and I guess the DS. Right? It was the DS. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
under
because that would
his
have
reign,
been.
right?
Yeah, I should confirm this, but I'm almost positive it
The
was
Wii for sure,
2003.
but I'm not
E3
sure.
2003 was his first year as president, I believe. I remember.
Oh,
I
okay,
guess
yeah. So,
for people who aren't familiar with the Nintendo World Report thing, we've done podcast segments the past couple of years of looking back at the E3 from 10 years ago. So I do
mm,
remember that E3 2003 where it was him looking really young too, because he's one of those people like Masahiro Sakurai as well, that even when they were in their 40s, they look like they're like 15 years old. Um,
right. Yes.
but
Yeah.
he was the president of the company in 2003, and he carried Nintendo from a time where
Yeah.
they were at their then lowest in the games industry, following up on the GameCube, and
Yeah.
he helped launch the DS, he helped launch the Wii, and Nintendo became gigantic. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a reason why when you see that it prints money gif, there's Iwata's face there because
Right.
he was
Right.
part of the reason for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the DS is, a huge element of what we've been up to. Love the DS. So yeah. So I mean, that's what springboarded, us into making games as a Renegade Kid, on the DS with Dimension back in
Yeah.
2007. So yeah, crazy man. But so he started off with like HAL, right? Was his first
I
or
mean,
prior to
I'm not,
Nintendo?
and
Not
this
for his
is,
first.
if you want to see more detailed stuff about Satoru Iwata's legacy, stay tuned to Nintendo World Report. We will have far better research pieces. What we're
Right.
going to be talking about here is
Yes.
a lot of my memory, and also when I'm
Hmm.
reading on some websites that have his gamography. But the first couple things that I know that he worked on, and I'm not really sure what his capacity was with Nintendo in the 80s, but he worked on Balloon Fight, also Pinball on the NES, F1 Race, and I mean that's a lot of his early stuff. But Balloon Fight is really his legacy in a way. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a reason why that's always the first game to come out on a virtual console platform these days.
Mm, interesting. Yeah. And Earthbound, right? He was on that too.
Yeah. He was a program director on Earthbound, and that was in the HAL days, where for people who aren't too familiar with this, HAL Labs, which now I think they're mostly owned by Nintendo, but back in the late '80s, early '90s, they were self-publishing a lot. Like Vegas Dream is a self-published HAL Labs game. I think even Adventures of Lolo was as well.
Interesting. And
Um,
HAL mainly does Kirby now, right? I
yeah,
guess. Yeah.
they've helped out with Smash Brothers games in the past, but they also did Box Boy. That was HAL. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't realize that. That's cool.
There's a reason why it kind of looks like a Kirby game in some
Right.
respects.
Exactly. And I think even it says here, even when Iwata was, full time with Nintendo, he would still kind of contract and help out at HAL in some kind of way,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And with his time at HAL, there's a story that I remember reading many years ago. So if I get specific details wrong, I apologize. Once again, look at NintendoWorldReport.com when we have stuff that's way more research, because we'll have more than about 20 minutes to process all of this. But in the early 90s, when Kirby's Adventure was on the verge of coming out, that was going to be a HAL Labs self-published game. It was going to be a HAL joint. That was that was aiming to be their big release, and I think it might have been called Tinkle Popo at this point, and not Kirby.
That's awesome. I had no idea. Tinkle Popo. That's great.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think that might have been Sakurai's idea. Was Tinkle Popo, because this was, for people who don't know, the Smash Brothers developer Masahiro Sakurai. Kirby was his baby. And what happened was Iwata, I think HAL might have had financial trouble, and then Iwata wound up talking to Hiroshi Machi, who was the president of Nintendo for many, many years before Iwata, and he passed away a year or two ago as well, that there was supposedly some sort of deal between Iwata and Yamachi where Nintendo was going to help HAL with publishing Kirby, and I think that Nintendo in return was going to take some sort of ownership of HAL, and then Iwata was going to work with Nintendo directly as opposed to be with HAL. And that was kind of like, in a way, that was kind of the steps to bring the transition for Iwata to take over as president. And that was 10 years before he became president.
Amazing.
And then Kirby came out, and it was Kirby Streamland on the Game Boy came out, and it was a success. And then HAL kind of became more and more of a Nintendo owned and only company. And Iwata slowly but surely kind of switched over to being in management at Nintendo. And even though he still has this developer background and he'd still help out, he eventually became president in the early 2000s.
Incredible.
So this is really sad. Like, I'm still kind of in shock about this.
I'm definitely in shock. I mean, yeah, I was just, getting ready to come on here and chat with you, and I was looking at Twitter, and I actually I saw the first tweet I saw was from Game Over Greggy, saying, rest in peace, Mr. Iwata. I'm like, what is that? I thought, is that just some really awful joke? I'm like, what is that? And then a flood of tweets coming out. I'm like, oh my gosh. Then I saw the official statement, and it was like, oh man, that, obviously we don't, I certainly didn't know what the situation was. I just assumed that he was. He was healing. I was hoping that he had surgery last year, I think it was, and I was hoping obviously this was just his road to recovery. I had obviously no idea.
Yeah, I mean, because he lost a lot of weight following the bile stuff that happened last year, but you kind of there were murmurs at the time when it was announced that he was going to miss E3 this year, that maybe he's still not well, but then people kind of assumed that, like, maybe it's just like, I mean, when you kind of saw that the E3 that they had, it wasn't kind of a knock down the door E3. Is that
someone knocking on your door?
I don't know. I don't know where that noise is coming from.
Oh, I don't hear anything. I think it's in your mind.
That's really weird. I don't know where that noise is coming from. I don't know if I have. Do I have a window that's making? Okay, it's an ad on a website that I'm on right now. It's really freaking me out. I apologize, everyone. I'm getting out of it. That was weird. Now I feel very disrespectful now. It was all Mosh Minky in the YouTube chat posted a Nintendo Wikia article to Satoru Iwata, and when I put that into my bar, it had an ad that autoplayed. So
nice. I'm
throwing you under the bus, Mosh Minky. I did see there before it blew up on me. God, I lost my train of thought after that. Let's see if I can go back there without the ad playing. He was promoted to president of HAL Laboratory in '93, so that was kind of part of the agreement with Nintendo and HAL to help them publish Kirby, and then he rose to that position, and he became president in 2002.
Right.
He's looked gaunt in recent times, and unfortunately, he lost that battle.
Pretty sad. So weird. I mean, he's a pretty young chap, really. 55, I think.
Yep.
I mean, really just sucks, man. Really sucks. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I really can't. I can't really accept it right now. It's very strange. Yeah, really, really sad. Anyway, I guess we shouldn't just sit here saying we're sad for an hour.
Yeah. So,
But, God, man, it's
I guess
terrible.
where do we go from here?
I guess as far as, I mean, I guess the good news, I mean, as far as just trying to look at it practically, I guess, if you can for a minute, I mean, as far as the business, as far as Nintendo, obviously, I mean, it seems like whatever the NX is, it seems like their plans and everything is very much in motion. So, I mean, I wouldn't expect it to affect those. I thought that train has always left the station. You know, they're already rolling,
Yeah.
they're already moving forward.
In,
They're
in,
already,
a, in a way,
you know,
I mean, what we'll see with the NX and the mobile stuff, that'll be Iwata's legacy to an
yeah,
extent.
that's
It'll
his
be his
last.
last hurrah because
Yeah,
he set up these a lot of these dominoes for Nintendo
yeah,
are they're set up right now,
yeah,
and I mean, well, hopefully it all works out.
yeah.
I sincerely hope it does.
They seem very confident and they seem very aware of the missteps and the successes they've had in the past, and they seem very confident in this is going to work. You know, which is amazing for any company to have confidence in a
Yeah,
product like that. So I'm very hopeful that his plan will be fruitful whenever we find out. You know, hopefully next year, I guess, is when it will really kick off. Um, so yeah, this and hopefully just just purely for him, it is a raging success. You know, that'd be wonderful.
yeah. I mean, I would love to see kind of whatever happens. And it looks like someone posted in the chat, and I'm trying to confirm it for myself. But apparently, in the Nintendo report, Genyo Takeda and Shigeru Miyamoto will be kind of taking over, at least in the interim.
Yeah, it said that on the official thing. Yeah, I think.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah, right.
Um,
Yeah, it was
now
actually
the
kind of
PDF is
peculiar.
opening for me. Yeah,
The official statement is kind of like a combination of the sad news of Mr. Iwata passing and a personnel change at the same time. It's kind of like it says
yeah,
notification of death and personnel change of a representative director, which I guess,
yes,
I mean, I guess it's just fact. I guess it's
yeah.
just very odd to read that in the same sentence, like, but it is what it is.
Okay, no, it seems like, at least just looking from this, it's not that Takeda and Miyamoto are taking over for him. It's that they,
They're the
well,
remain.
there
You
is
know,
currently no
yeah,
president of NCL, and there's no CEO of Nintendo of America, as Iwata took over that position in 2013.
right.
Um, but Takeda and Miyamoto are kind of, I guess, the people that will that the investor like will
The senior
whenever we see
director.
any of those investor Q&As, it'll usually be some combination of Iwata, Miyamoto, and Takeda. And now I guess Takeda and Miyamoto are those people for that position.
Yeah.
Because I mean, this entire statement is the reason why it's so kind of terse is because it's a notification for shareholders.
Right. Right.
It's not as
Exactly.
much as a public,
Yeah. It's yeah.
declaration.
No, it's just fact for exactly like you said for
Yeah.
shareholders. It's not for the public really. But obviously that the internet is what it is, and everyone grabs
Yeah.
it, and that
Yeah.
becomes the
I
official
mean,
statement.
yep.
It's not really their official statement. Yeah, like you say, it's more of a shareholder notification than anything else.
So I guess there's no easy way to transition to what we were going to talk about initially. So I guess let's just kind of go for it.
Okay,
So you've got a bunch of games coming out on Nintendo platforms in the
we do.
interim. Like you have Xeodrifter is coming to Wii U, and
Yeah,
as we talked on Twitter, possibly jokingly, I don't know. Do you have a release date for Xeodrifter on Wii U?
I wouldn't joke about such things with you. That would be so rude. Yes. So the official release date that we will reveal now exclusively on Nintendo World Reports Nintendo World
Yes,
Rapport,
my dumb name.
is the last eShop day of this month, so July 30th, which is the last Thursday of July, will be the release date for Xeodrifter on Wii U. So that's very exciting. So yeah, it's done and dusted. So now we just have to get it ramped up and all sorted out and all the assets and blah blah set up for that release.
and cross-buy is all go. So if anyone got the 3DS version, then they will just be able to download the Wii U version.
That's what I was about to. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was. Yeah, we have to figure out how that was going to work because there's a few technical ways of approaching that. So the way this is going to be approached is it's connected to your NNID. So it just knows, just like, oh, cool, you bought the 3DS one. Well, here you go. Now you can download the Wii U one. So it's not, in the past, because the 3DS one's already been released, we couldn't have the system of when you buy one of them, it gives you the code on your receipt. Because
which is how Mario and Donkey Kong Tipping Stars did it.
We could have done that, and that's actually the way we will probably do it for Mutant Mudds Super Challenge. Because 3DS and Wii U will come out at the same time, in theory, hopefully. Should be. I don't see any reason why not, but anything can happen. But in theory, they'll come out at the same time. And in that case, it will just be a code on your receipt. But in this case, because we wanted to make sure the wonderful people that have already bought the 3DS version of Xeodrifter, we didn't want to. There was a moment there, which obviously I tweeted out, where we weren't sure if we were going to be able to do that. And that's why I tweeted that out, just to let everyone know. Yeah. And but thankfully, no. Literally the next day, they were like, "No, we can do it this way," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, cool. All right then. I guess I'll let everyone know."
I think Ollie did it that way back when that came out in March, which I think they were the first third party to do that. Buy one, get one free.
I think is there another one that's done it as well?
I think there was one in Europe that did it.
Okay.
And there's been like loyalty discounts before, like if you bought one and you get the other one discounted.
Right. Yeah, that's another way of doing it as well. Exactly. So, yeah, so that's really exciting. So, it's really neat to play Xeodrifter on the TV. I really, honestly, it was very much a kind of like, we'd done the 3DS version, we were working on Super Challenge, and then one day, and it's just so casual, but it really is the way it happened. I was chatting with Matthew, who's the huge brain programmer.
Matthew Gambrell, correct?
Matthew Gambrell, who does all of our 2D stuff. And he's like, yeah, I could port that over to the Wii U over just in a few weeks, really, because of all the work that he's done on Mutant Mudds Super Challenge, which are very much co-developed. We create the game and it works on both platforms, and it had to be that way just so it was more, it was easier, more streamlined. So anyway, so that opened up the door for Xeodrifter. So he's like, yeah, I can do that pretty quick. So I'm like, oh, well, let's do that then. So really, it's, it's just a convenience. Honestly, I don't, and that's why we're like, let's just go cross-buy. Let's just, and just make it as simple as possible for everyone. So anyway, my point is, it was kind of almost a surprise for me because he came over with the build one day because we all work at home and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, me playing it on the gamepad on the TV, I actually just beat it while he was over. I just sat there and just beat it, not even meaning to. I was just kind of playing through it while he was over and we were chatting. And so like, oh, I guess it's done then, because I literally 100%ed it. And it was like, okay, then. I guess that worked out well. And it was wonderful. It feels so good on the gamepad. It really does. It feels really comfortable. And it's, the off TV support. So it's a single screen, We did debate whether to do the dual screen, which is obviously the 3DS does support that. But we thought in the end it's best to go with a single screen off TV play because that's awesome. It's awesome to be able to curl up on the couch and play on the gamepad, So yeah, it's great.
I'm definitely very excited to have an excuse to go back and play that again. I enjoyed it back in December when it came out on 3DS.
Yes, all those months ago. Exactly. Yes. Cool. Thanks, man. So it's the same experience, and it's nice. Those pixels look really huge and awesome on the TV.
Yeah, no, it looked great seeing it nice. Back at E3 at the Mix event. I think you can see some video of it direct feed on our YouTube channel if you were so inclined.
13
and there's
minutes.
Actually, yeah, there's something kind of funny about that because I started playing it initially and then like immediately died on the first boss.
Right.
And then Jools, who basically just took the controller from my hand and was just like, "I'll do it."
Yeah, I know. I'd actually forgotten.
And then you just like played through like another you played through 15 minutes of the game and got every hidden object and like you made the game.
Right. Yeah, it was pretty funny because that obviously wasn't really planned, but yeah, you were playing it and then you died. Yeah. I'm like, well, let me have a go. And I didn't even realize that when I was watching it. I was like, wow, why did I die on the boss? And I was like, oh, that's right.
That was me. Although
Yeah.
it was fun watching you because there were like different things about the boss. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize if I just like sat there, then it
Oh, I
wouldn't
can
hit
just
me.
crouch, and they
Yeah,
see. It's really funny because I watch a lot of videos of people playing the game, and they'll jump over the shots, which is really
that's
difficult.
yeah,
You
that's what
know?
I would always try to do, and
Yeah.
that's probably why I died a lot.
But yeah, if you just kind of stand close-ish to the middle of the screen and just duck, you'll be fine.
It's a pro
Which
tip.
it's nice having those little secrets like that in
Yeah.
there, you know. And then hopefully when the player discovers that themselves, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a genius! I just totally
And
avoided that."
that was another thing is I think it was me, you, and Jonathan Metz where we're talking about the game, and that there were some power ups that seemed like you had to just hit a random block, but you actually do have cute little tells that
Yeah,
show you where it is. So with that
yeah,
knowledge going through the game again, I'm looking
yeah,
forward to it.
yeah. There is a visual clue of where the health blocks are. Yep. Which are
So
really obvious when you know what they are. But
yeah, yeah,
I won't mention it. And if you guys
yeah.
want to reveal it one day, you can. But yeah, if you, yeah, there's a
Pro tip,
visual clue. There's a pro tip there.
pro
Yes,
tease.
there is a pro. Yeah, pro tease exactly.
So I'm kind
Um,
of curious. You kind of mentioned it a little bit, but how does kind of I guess the work environment at Renegade Kid go? Because I know it's you and Greg Hargrove are kind
mhm.
of like the two people at the top, but then is it like Matthew Gambrell and other people that you work with? Are those all kind of on a contractor basis, and are you guys like spread out across the country, or are you all in like the Austin, Texas area?
Yeah, pretty much yes to all of the above. We just said so. Yeah, we all work from home, and we actually have done from the beginning. Oh man, that looks delicious. What kind of beer is that?
It's not a beer, actually. It's iced tea. It's just in a
Oh,
beer glass.
it
I'm
looks
very
like a
thirsty.
delicious beer.
I was out all day, which is
Well,
why I was late. I actually had
yeah.
some friends from Denver were in town.
Okay.
So and then
Enough
we
said.
got
You know what those Denver people are like.
yeah, all those
Yeah.
weird Denver people.
Yeah.
But we were out and about, and we mistimed everything, and we're
Right.
farther away from home than we thought.
Right. Fun. That looked delicious though. Iced
Yes,
tea.
it was very good.
Anyway, so yeah, no, so even from the beginning of, let me take you back to the beginning. So,
What is this? Paint the picture. 2007.
so 2000, picture this.
Renegade Kid. No, wait.
Yeah.
Before Renegade Kid, I feel like almost at this point we need to save the Acclaim talk for another day. But
Yeah,
right before,
probably.
because when did Acclaim shut down? And wasn't there a gap of time between when Renegade Kid started
I
and
think,
Acclaim?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think Acclaim closed in 2004. I
Okay,
think
that sounds about right. I think
about that.
yeah, because
Um,
because your last game with them that came out was Vex, right? Like
well,
'03, I think was that.
actually, the last game I probably worked on with Acclaim was probably NBA Jam PS2, I
Oh, okay.
think.
There was an NBA Jam game on PS2.
It was good too, and I can't take any credit for it. It was a really good game. I was the assistant or creative director at the time. Um, to the team who'd been working on it for a long time, at least a couple of years, and then I just came on really at the end just to help out where I could, just to
I
help them
got that.
push it
There
out the
was an
door. It's a
NBA Jam
wonderful
game on
little game though.
PS2. How did I never know about this?
It's really a wonderful game. They did an amazing job. Seriously, it's a very good game. It's 3-on-3. It's really good. The artwork's really sweet. The gameplay is really nice. That's actually a lot of the stuff that myself and David Levy, who's a very talented artist, we worked together. He was the art director, I guess, at the time. Yeah, so we kind of got together and we went down to the game and we did some of just the final little polish, like the camera, making sure the camera was very much like the traditional NBA Jam and stuff like that, and just some of the timings of the gameplay to make it really arcadey and little touches. But the team did an amazing job. It's a great game. Anyway, that's that's a different story. But yes, that was the last game I worked on. Really, it was. But yeah, the team did a wonderful job. Really, really good game. Anyway, but no, did some freelance stuff after that, and then we were working. Greg and I were both working at King's Isle in, I guess, 2000. Well, we probably joined them in 2005, and we worked there for about 18 months. So in 2006, for no good reason, honestly, well, lots of good reasons, but a very risky reason. We had a good job. We were both being paid fine. It was good. I decided of like, I need to start my own thing, and I've been wanting to do it for years. And before then, And anyway, so we left, a decent job to start Renegade Kid, I guess, in sometime in 2006, I guess. And so
And
we
you guys hooked up with South Peak, or no, not South Peak.
much later, yeah. We were
Oh God,
independent.
what's the name of it? Gamecock, right?
Gamecock,
Yeah,
yes.
and then they ended up getting kind of absorbed by South Peak
They
later
did.
on, right?
You're right, yeah. So we actually left King's Isle. And had just a freelance gig. I'd hooked up this from freelance gig where it was really cool. We were doing pixel art work for these toys. There's this company that would do these toys with Mattel and what's the other one? Whatever. These big toy companies. And they were in one was called Pixel Chicks. And it was these cute little houses, this physical little house that had like a little kind of projection screen inside it where this little pixel artwork would run around, and it's very, very clever, very cool. There's this period in time where all of these were very popular. But anyway, so we did that during the day to make money. Both Greg and I had a gig doing that, got paid hourly to do that. And then in the evening, we would work on Dementium. A very stark contrast in creative outlets.
Cute girl toy, like insane asylum.
Bloody zombies, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then we pulled our money together from that to then pay Bob Ives, who is our programmer still, who's actually in Madrid, Spain, English chap, living over there, and has lived over there the entire time. Wonderful man.
And he does all your 3D stuff. So
exactly.
Dementium,
so it's just the three of us at the beginning. It was Greg, myself, and Bob. We worked on that. We got it to the point where it was rocking pretty good, working really, really well. And that's when we started to shop it around to publishers. Long story short, we signed it with Gamecock in 2007, and then released it Halloween 2007. And it did really well. It was great. So that was the beginning of Renegade Kid, and from then and until now, we've all worked at home. So it's a lot of instant message chats back and forth. And really the reason it works is everyone is very good at what they do, and they're given a lot of ownership over what they do. I'm the only one that kind of pesters everyone just to kind of like, hey, how's that going? And that looks really awesome. Oh, can we try this? And so I'm just kind of buzzing around like a little bee on flowers and stuff. But they're really left to do their own thing. And for me, I guess as the manager, I wear lots of hats, but when I'm a producer manager person, I like to trust them on, hey, how long is this going to take? And if you tell me it's going to take a week, it's going to take a week. Great. I'm not going to be like, well, I think it should take 2 weeks because I have a really tiny penis. Which a lot of managers are like that. They'll be like, well, you can do it faster, surely. It's like, that doesn't help, dude. You're impressing no one. If they say they can be a week, it's going to be a week. Because the nice thing about that also is not only do you trust them and they feel empowered to be like, great, they trust me, it's going to take a week. On the flip side, if it doesn't take a week, it takes longer. It's their problem because they said it was going to take a week. They weren't forced to say it was a week. They said it's going to take a week.
It's not like oh, that dickhole manager told me it was only going to take a week, and I said it was going to take 2.
Exactly. Yeah. So but if you have really good people and you trust them and they trust you, then it can work. And it does work. And everyone likes to work at home and they're enjoying it. And so it takes certain people, I think, for that to work. Not everyone would enjoy it. And not everyone would be able to plug into that system, but fortunately it works really well for us. So we had to pretend we had an office for many years for Nintendo to allow us.
I was actually going to ask about that. How did you pull that one off? Because I know that was now that the policy is gone, I guess we can talk about it in the
exactly. Now we can come clean, but at the time we had to bend some of the rules to we had honest intentions, so I never felt bad about it because we weren't trying to do anything evil. We were just trying to make games, So I mean, to me it was a very very simple bending of the truth rather than an out lie.
So what was it like? You put like your address as your home, and then like
no, because they could check that. They could just jump on Google Maps and go, nope, that's a house. Nice try. I think we did try that once, actually. Like, oh, no, sorry, wrong address. Yeah, sorry about that. No, actually, a family member actually has a building they own. Who knew? In Austin, funnily enough. So we used that as the address. He very kindly let us say, yeah, you can use my address. That's fine. And then they got really strict and said, okay, well, you need to send us a floor plan so we can see the flow of, all for security reasons, like where's the mail dropped off? How do we know that what we're sending you as far as dev kits is secure and no one else can steal it or whatever? So I had to kind of fabricate this floor plan, and it's very silly, very silly. And I'm sure Steve Okimoto, who's the person responsible for all of that at Nintendo, is probably, if he ever hears of this, he'd be like,
He's like, I knew it the whole
yes. But thankfully they've changed that. And I think Dan Edelman was certainly instrumental. Dan or Damon Baker, maybe both. I'm not
wonderful
sure.
people. A lot
Both
of good indie games on Nintendo platforms because of both of those guys.
Yeah. Well, and they were very instrumental in changing a lot of the policies. I mean, because they realized that, you know, it's unnecessary to have that.
I mean, you just look at the difference from DSi and Wii to 3DS and Wii U. It's night and day.
Especially Wii U, even in a way, because of just how more powerful it is. So people can get on there and do the HTML and whatever else, HTML5 or whatever it is, Unity. You know, it's but yeah, no, 3DS. I mean, the 3DS eShop is very well supported as well, which is fantastic. But yeah, so so we all work at home, which is great, you know. And yeah, like I say, we used instant message, we Skype now and then, we meet up occasionally. But like I say, really, mainly it works because everyone's trusted to do what they do, and everyone does a great job and has great instincts, and also wears lots of hats. You know, Matthew Gambrell, for example, you know, just has a great design sense. So when he implements something for the first time, it's usually great. You know, and he exposes all of the parameters for me to kind of mess with. So it just works really great. It's a good groove. It's good. And it's really been instrumental in us surviving. I think if we had an overhead, the very simple, you know, having an office space costs thousands of dollars a month, you know, regardless of if you need it, if whether you use it or not. And that wasn't an expense that we were willing to do just to please some bigwig somewhere that we could make games. It's like, well, I know we can do it without an office, but I'm not going to waste thousands of dollars a month just for that. So I'm glad we didn't, you know, because if we had, you know, in the leases for those kinds of things, it used to, at least to be, you know, a couple of years long, you know, is the minimum that you can sign up for. So we would have gone under if we'd have had an office space. Honestly, we would just, you know, just monetarily riding the crazy bull that we have over the last few years. It would have been rough to have a rent that we'd have to pay as well.
Yeah, because then early on, I mean, because what, you had Dementium, then Moon,
and Dementium 2,
and then Dementium 2 with then South Peak,
right?
And then what was after that? Was the first
ATV?
ATV Wild Ride
with after that with Destinia.
So then how does, I mean, because then you guys kind of did make the decision to go independent when you got to Mutant Mudds with 3DS, but how was it like working with publishers and then kind of making that leap to just doing it yourselves?
Oh, it was wonderful. Going independent was felt very free. It was wonderful. It was nice. Yeah, I mean, it honestly, it is not an ideal situation to make something creative with someone else's money. It's just not a good idea, you know. In an ideal situation, you wouldn't do that because that person who has the money is bothering you, you know. I mean, fair enough.
What you're creating. I mean, you guys only got the rights back to Dementium like a year ago. And South Peak hasn't been a game publisher for like 4 years.
Indeed. But I mean, just to give respect where respect's due. I mean, obviously, if someone's giving you money to do something for them, they have every right to bother you.
Oh, of course.
But the reality is, it does interrupt the creative process. And I'm not really an arty-farty type of person, but the reality is, if someone's always saying, "Hey, how's it going?" and "Hey, prove this," and "When are you going to deliver this?" and it's like, can I just make the game, please? Can you please trust that we'll do it? Sit over there and please just give us money, and we'll do a good job. And then that's never going to happen, of course. But so it felt wonderful to release Mudds on our own steam in our own way, and even simple things like, you know, like what screenshots to release and how many to release them and when to release them and who to give them to is very important, you know, where a lot of companies will be like, okay, 20 screenshots of the same crap, boom, send them out to everyone.
Yep.
It's like, that is so counterproductive. I mean, that makes the game look awful and no one cares, you know, and there's no sense of value to any screenshot, let alone 20. So
yeah, it
be
probably
nice.
helped you guys from a PR perspective, kind of going through that time of, you know, Dementium and Moon and Dementium 2. Because I think you posted some pictures of your Dementium press tour that you went on.
Yeah,
But
it was
having that
awesome.
knowledge,
Oh
and
yeah.
when you've gone independent, I mean, you've been very good at kind of doing your own PR. I mean, I've
Hmm.
seen, especially on the Wii U and the 3DS in the past couple of years, you've seen a lot of developers not really know what they're doing when it comes
Hmm.
to doing indie PR. I mean, just
Yeah.
I guess indie games in general, not even just limited
Yeah.
to Nintendo platforms.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a role. I just love video games. I've always been, very much interested in games. From a kid to now, I've always bought magazines. And then obviously the internet came along. I've always looked at internet websites such as the wonderful Nintendo World Report. Yeah, that's right. But I mean,
Yeah.
I've always been naturally interested in video game news. It's not a conscious decision. It's just something I'm just interested in. So for me, I've always, been the recipient of that, and I've been, and I notice what campaigns, if you will, work on me and what ones seem ridiculous. And I think Capcom, Konami back in the day were very good in the SNES days, especially, were very good of eking out the information on the big games, and then it would come out, and you know Nintendo are very good at that as well.
Just the
Even
fervor that builds when it's
yeah,
like,
I mean, and
here's a little tease.
it's the drip tease, the drip, whatever you call it. Yeah, the drip tease. That's
Yeah.
not even the right word, but yes, the trickle effect of whatever,
Yeah.
of like little bit of information, then it grows over time. And I don't have as much time as I would like to devote to that, but so I just do the best I can as far as getting that done. But just that approach is it's just fun for for the recipient to kind of get a couple of screenshots here and there, and kind of you get to pore over it and really appreciate it and look at all the details, and then another one comes out, and if it's something you really care about, then that's really exciting, I think, for the player to experience that when the game finally comes out. So it's just really a lot of it's based on that. It's just kind of me being a customer as well, and seeing what I like and what's worked on me. I mean, I've definitely been suckered into buying certain games, and I'm like, wow, and not in a bad way. And I'm like, wow, that really worked on me. That was really cool. How do I try and learn from that? That was really a really cool
Yeah.
campaign, and it really drew me in.
I know, actually, in some of my the day job that I oft refer to but don't really talk about too specifically, that I do outside of my Nintendo World Report life. I actually used a lot of ideas from the Smash Brothers dojo,
Mm,
into stuff that I have done, both in, like, even when I was in college working on projects and professionally
right.
outside of school, because that kind of giving a little tease every day was
Hmm.
so effective. And I remember it, like, my routine, because when Brawl came out, I was second or third year college, and I remember I would wake up every morning, and this is, I have
Right.
afternoon classes. I didn't have a reason to be up that early, but every morning I would get up. The first thing that I would do would be go to my computer, look at what was posted on the dojo,
Right.
and that was something that stuck with me
Yeah.
throughout everything. And I think Nintendo's tried to do that with Smash Brothers Wii U and 3DS to
Hmm.
success. They did
Yeah.
that with Splatoon, with the Tumblr that they have with that
Yeah.
to success.
Yeah. Exactly. It's they're very innovative in Nintendo in the way they approach PR. Sometimes it misses, sometimes it really hits really hard. So they're definitely trying, which is really fun. Yeah. I mean, the
Yeah.
Splatoon rollout's really interesting. With the game comes out, it is the size that it is. And then they'll add something, a week later or 2 weeks later, and so on, and then it grows over time, which for the press is a nightmare, but for the player is awesome. You get this game, and then it keeps on giving, and you keep on getting these new things, and there's the retention, the reason to come back and see these new things is very fun for the player. I spoke to some press people that have complained about that, because it's hard, because the game comes out, they review it, and they reviewed that thing that was released then, but now 2 weeks later, that's old news, and they are upset by that. I say, well,
Yeah.
that's your problem. That's not the
Yeah,
game's
that's
problem.
not Nintendo's problem. That's not
Yeah,
their fan base's problem. And I mean, I think that the
yeah,
proof is in the pudding with Splatoon.
yeah.
That, I mean, it's, I guess, as someone who runs a video game website that has a lot of reviews, maybe I'm part of a dying breed. I don't know. I think there's still value in having those
Oh
reviews and
yeah.
having those reviews come out.
You just have to go back to the review and update it. I mean, you just
Yeah,
have to be like, hey, this is a living and breathing service that this game is providing. It's not a done one release, walk
yeah,
away. This is continuous, so the review has to be continuous as well. It's as simple as that, really.
yeah.
I think
I
it's a
mean,
lot of value in reviews still, for sure.
And while I did update my Splatoon, I didn't score Splatoon initially because we hadn't played on online servers yet. But then
Right.
after playing on online servers for a couple days, I did slap a score on it. But
Right.
for me, I think that my review still stands as is because even at launch, I wasn't really upset by the amount of content in that game. Like the fact that there was only the 5 maps. Like those 5
Me
maps are
neither.
incredible.
Yeah, me
And
too. I
they
really,
just keep on adding more, and it's
yeah.
amazing.
I did. I saw a lot of complaints about that, about, it's a 50, 60, whatever dollar game, and it's only got this. And I'm like, sure, on paper I could get that, but have you
Yeah.
played it? What is your experience with it? And I was okay. The experience was good. And then, yeah, like I said, they keep on adding more. So it's like, oh wow, and you definitely have your money's worth now if you
Yeah.
were complaining before.
And I've been busy like the past week or two, and I haven't really been able to play it. And I keep on seeing like, oh, they added a new mode. They added new guns. They added
Yeah, amazing.
new stages. So it's like whenever I go back to it, it's going to be like a new game, and that's why like I don't feel the pressure to go play Splatoon every day because I think it is the kind of game that once you have the base knowledge for it, you're not going to get hopelessly lost whenever you go back
Right.
to it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the talent of the online people is going to improve, but
Right.
I think that's a game that's still a fun experience, even
Yeah.
if you're not that great at it.
It's a very clever multiplayer game. Yeah, I mean, hopefully the matchmaking will, keep people even to a
Yeah.
large extent. But also the fact that, if you're a bit more of a passive player and you want to just, paint the world and not worry about, shooting people, you can do that. You can get the roller out and roll your heart out, and just do your thing and stay out of harm's way, as much as possible. So it's very nice, very unique in that way, where it does have a different way for people to approach the gameplay, which is really clever. Yeah, it's a neat game.
Now with I mean, over at Renegade Kid right now, you kind of have, it seems like two tracks. You've got your side-scrolling 2D stuff with like Mudds and Xeodrifter and the elusive Treasurenauts. And you also have your kind of first-person shooter track with, Dementium. You had Moon remastered last year, or Moon Chronicles. It's Dementium remastered and Moon Chronicles.
Right.
And I know that in the past, and I don't know, none of those games ever really came out, but you did have like that Crash Bandicoot demo. There was what Mutant Mudds initially was, which was I think I remember seeing footage of that.
Yeah, the 3D platformer. Yep.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of going back to that 3D platformer, or are you kind of set with too much stuff on your plate in the 2D and first-person shooter realm?
Yeah, I mean that is just our big problem, is we have more ideas and potential than we have people or time to do anything with. That's really the big problem that we're facing. It's a good problem to have, I guess, but it just kind of sucks. It is annoying. Yeah, so we'd love to do a 3D platform with mods. It'd be amazing. But they are way more time consuming and challenging to create than a 2D platform, of course. Just the camera and collision alone is a big focus. Is a lot of assets.
It's almost like you're adding an entire new dimension.
Indeed. And the problems are multiplied due to that. So it's something we would love to do, and I know we could do a great job, but it's the amount of time it would take to do that, and the amount of extra resources to create that. Creating Max in 2D and doing all the animations is a fraction of the time versus a 3D artist having to model, texture, and animate and rig and do all of those things. It's a massive undertaking. So, and that's why we went the Kickstarter route with Colt County. It's not something we could do on our own steam. So we thought we'd put it out there. Obviously, that was a glorious failure for multiple reasons. But so if we were to approach something like that again, otherwise it'd either have to be a Kickstarter thing or just someone giving us a bunch of cash to do that. So I don't think we could do it of our own steam, and that's why we're trying to take advantage of things like Moon Chronicles and Dementium, even ATV, I guess. Moving those to the 3DS and with the hope that they find some kind of success to help fund bigger projects in the future.
Yeah. And kind of refining what you made in the past for a new platform.
Yeah, which is, everyone's a winner, really, which is nice. We get to spend a fraction of the time to release a fully fledged experience. So the player gets it for a much lower cost than they would have originally, even on the DS. So everyone, I think, benefits from that, which is really fun. So we're just hoping, honestly, the sales for Moon Chronicles weren't huge. So we're hoping Dementium, and there's a lot of reasons for that, which we're certainly responsible for. So I'm hoping that the release of Dementium Remastered does better than Moon, which I think it will. But but you never know.
Yeah.
You know, we'll see what happens.
And now going to the chat, we had I guess Awesome Gamer and Senior Meatbox or Senior Meatbox. I don't know if it's Senior or Senior, probably Senior.
Yeah, actually, and yeah, well, I've raced with him on ATV Online. Meatbox.
Well, first off, Awesome Gamer mentions, does Dementium Remastered have any sort of release date? And I think I remember talking to you about E3, and it's like kind of September-ish. Is that it?
You know what? That's probably what I said actually at E3. Yes, but things have changed since then, and that's the thing that's so fun and exciting about indie developers. Shit changes all the time. You know what? I think we're going to go for the month of horror. I think we're going to go for Halloween time. We're going to go for October. It just has to. We're so close to that anyway. It's poetic because the original game came out in Halloween, or actually October 27th, in 2007. So I think we should just go for that because it just makes sense. It's exciting. It's fun to get a horror game in the month of horror. That's just fun for the players, you know. So yeah, we're going to go for October, I think. So and that gives us plenty of time to it takes the pressure off us a little bit as far as trying to make sure it gets all done really quick and get it out and make sure it gets released in September. It takes a little bit of the pressure off, and so we can just take our time and make sure that we polish it up nice and good before it comes out. So I think we're going to go for October. Maybe I'm not sure. I won't even bother even saying a release date right now because it'll probably change. But probably a week or two before Halloween.
Cool. And Senior Meatbox mentions, is it possible that you could add in some of the Ward's cut features for remastered, such as the co-op or survival mode, which, at least for me, I didn't even know that there was cut features from the original game. So.
I didn't either. I don't know if that was ever cut.
Okay.
Per se. We had a survival in Dementium 2.
Right.
Survival mode. We never had co-op. Well, maybe, you know what? Okay, he's probably referring to the very early days when we were pitching the game when it was called just The Ward. You know, that's probably what he's talking about. Yeah, is when we were pitching the game just called The Ward back in the day. That was probably in a feature set of what we ultimately wanted the game to be to publishers. So they were never technically cut. Well, I guess they were cut, but they were never created and then cut. You know, they just never happened. They were conceptually cut. The short answer to that is no. We're not going to be adding survival mode or co-op to it. It will be a very focused single player experience, and we're trying to refine that experience because there's a lot of missteps on that original release, especially in the North American release. The save points were terrible. You know, you get to a boss, you would obviously die, and then you'd be sent right back to the beginning of the chapter. It was awful. Yeah, it was brutal.
Stuff right there.
Yeah, it was not really intentional. It was just, you know, we were getting it out, and it was just like, oh wow. We fixed it for the European release. Anyway, so little things like that, making sure the enemies don't respawn, just trying to make it refined. It will make the experience a little easier because of that. So we're actually going to add easy, normal, and hard difficulty modes, which change the health, you know, and attack attributes of the player and the enemies to add more challenge for those that want more challenge. We're spending a lot more time and effort on making it more of a visual upgrade than Moon Chronicles was. Really, because you kind of have to for a game like this, which is based more in reality. When you have, you know, a realistic environment that, you know, there's a grungy wallpaper or whatever on the walls, and you just have to increase the resolution of that and add bump maps and specularity to make it look the way you want it to look. Whereas with Moon, it's all sci-fi, so it's like, oh, it's all smooth and shiny, and yeah, whatever, great, cool, whatever. That's the way it would look, sure. So what's nice with Dementium, it looks awesome. I sent out a screenshot a while ago that you can scan the QR code with your 3DS and see it in 3D, where you can see the Chessmore in the corridor, and it looks awesome. Greg has done a wonderful job of making the Chessmores look 10 times better than they did on the DS. So yeah, so it's exciting, man. I think it's looking really nice. I'm really excited to get it out there. So anyway, so yeah, that's the big focus for us. It's just to refine that single player experience and get it out there on 3DS in the month of October.
Yay!
Yay!
So then the other game that is still slated for this year is Mutant Mudds Super Challenge.
Yes.
So when's is that? Is that before Dementium or after, or
It will be before.
Okay,
Yeah, it was originally slated for June. That obviously didn't happen.
because we
And
are
it's
halfway through July now.
right, exactly. Um, and yeah, I mean, we're just spending a little bit more time making sure the bosses are good, and just other things like Xeodrifter. It came up like, hey, we should get Xeodrifter move it to Wii U. So obviously that's Matthew's time. If he's working on that, then he's not working on Mutant Mudds Super Challenge. We had all the demos and stuff to do for E3. We had also we're porting Xeodrifter over to PS4 and Vita, so that was a whole thing as well. That again is all on Matthew's shoulders as far as programming. So it's like there's only so many hours in the day, and he works a ridiculous amount of those hours in the day because he loves it and because he's I don't know, this is just his passion. He just loves to make games. So yeah, so now we're finally back. I think fully focusing on Mud Super Challenge. I think all of that stuff's done and out of the way. I think there were some demos for Sony that we needed to finish up. Not that anyone on this channel would want to hear about, but anyway. Um, but yeah, so we have a few bosses to still finish off for that. So I'm hoping. God, I don't know. It's annoying that we set these dates and and then we miss them and everyone gets mad about it. But it is what it is.
We just don't want to play your games, dude.
Yeah, It's I just feel bad. I feel bad that we set this date and then we miss it. But anyway, so right now we're still hoping it'll be a summer release. So and I guess September is still summer, right?
Yeah, but technically, that's funny. That's what the Runbow guys said about their game too. They're like, we want it to be summer, but summer goes into September, right?
Right. So that's what we're hoping for. May it slide into October? Sure, it might do.
You might just have a Renegade month of October.
True. It may be a regular. That's not a bad thing. But the game's really great. I'm really happy with it.
It's hard as shit.
It
Like that
is.
was my takeaway from that demo and playing
God,
some
it's
other levels.
ridiculous.
Because the demo that you had, that I was playing at I guess that might have been when we met up with you at your hotel that I was playing it. I deliberately went to go see what the final level was and basically just like peed myself and was just like, I can't do that right now.
That's right. You went to the last level. So why would you do that?
I had to see. I had to see what fate awaited me when I
Did I
finally
show
sat down
you?
with the game.
We won't mention it now, but did I show you the Easter egg at the end of that level?
No, you didn't. I'll have to. Now I look forward to it.
Okay. There's an Easter egg at the end of the last level. So World 5, Level 4. So Level 5, 4. There's a really nice little Easter egg at the end of that level, which is.
I think actually now that I think about it, I think you mentioned it to me. I didn't see it though because I didn't get far in that level.
Right. Yes, it's at the end of that level. So, but no, the game. I'm really happy with it. It's really. I popped up the saturation. I love the little gems. Going behind the levels to collect the gems. The extra difficulty is, it's definitely up there. Which I didn't realize it was actually quite as hard as it is. It's really damn hard.
Yeah,
it's quite fun. The bosses are really fun. We actually Matthew and I had a meeting about this. I think it was last week, just to finalize all of the ideas for the bosses. And they're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun to design, and I'm really happy with the way the ghost boss turned out. That
was my favorite part of the demo, probably.
Oh, cool! Thanks, man.
Are all of the bosses ghosts, or is it just that specific one?
No, just that one. So the reason that is a ghost boss is because that's the third boss. So every world has 5 doors you can go into, 5 levels. 4 of them are regular levels, and then the 5th one, of course, is the boss door. But every third level of those first 4 is a ghost level. So that's kind of how we're introducing the ghost levels to the main game. Is every third level is a ghost level. So the third boss is a ghost boss. Just to keep synchronicity going. Because we wanted to have a ghost boss. So where do we put it? Oh, third level. There we go. Boom. That was how long we took on figuring that one out. So the other ones are not ghost bosses at all. They're just regular bosses.
But do they follow the same kind of pattern of like go behind the level, do a platforming challenge, then you're able to hit the boss, or is that only?
I'm pretty sure all of them at least use the layers in some way.
That's fantastic because that's really. I mean, that's making bosses that play to the strength of your game. That's
the hope. That's the hope. Yeah, that's the idea. That's what we're hoping to try and achieve. Like I say, we're still trying to finish off the bosses. Not trying to. We are trying to finish them off. We are finishing them off. It's just finding time to do it. Jeez Louise, nightmare. But yeah, no, we're trying to, exactly. Try and take advantage of what Max has to offer as far as his abilities and the game and stuff. And you know, the ghost boss, yeah, you go into the background each time. The gauntlet in the background changes each round. I mean, that's unique to that encounter. You know, other encounters don't do that, but other encounters do have a use of the layers in some way, which is quite fun. And they all have that weak spot inside them, the little emerald heart that somehow you have to get out of them to shoot to actually hurt them. So they all have different ways of doing that. It's really neat. It's really fun to design bosses. There are a lot of effort, you know. There's many weeks, many weeks or months involved in each boss. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. And that's why, honestly, that's why they aren't in the first game. It was like, yeah, we don't have time for that. Let's just release the game. We're happy with these 40 levels. Let's just go with that. And I like that. I like that the original Mudds doesn't have it. It's very much, here's a bunch of levels. Good luck. And it's strange. Some people don't like it. Some people complained about it. Some people love it, whatever. But I like that this Super Challenge does have the bosses, and it's crazy hard because now I like it because there's a reason for Mutant Mudds and Mutant Mudds Super Challenge to coexist because they are different. They aren't just carbon copies.
One builds to the other.
Yeah, for sure. So it'll be really fascinating to see how well it's received. Because it is balls hard, and that's fun, you know, and it doesn't try and shy away from that, obviously, with the name Super Challenge in the name.
Now, I have a question, but I will
Look at the shirt, Mary. Who's that guy?
Treasurenauts. Actually, I wasn't even going to bother you about Treasurenauts until right now. I will. First, I'm going to do a couple questions from the chat.
Cool.
I think this is out in the open, but I do not know off the top of my head. CMM1215 asks, tried out the Nindies at Home demo and absolutely loved it. Loved the original game on 3DS. Any possibility of cross-buy with the Wii U version, or has that ship sailed? Now, how is for Mutant Mudds Super Challenge? How is that going to work for the Wii U and the 3DS version?
Okay, so thank you. First of all, CM, what was it? CM what?
CMM1215.
CMM1215. Thank you for playing it and liking it. I really appreciate that.
Oh wait, oh no, okay. Well, I guess still explain what the thing is for Super Challenge, but he was specifically referring to the original Mutant Mudds.
Okay.
But what's up with Super Challenge first?
Okay, right. Okay. It'll be cross-buy for sure. So you buy one, you get the other. Simple as that. Whether you get 3DS or Wii U, you get the other. How it connects to the original game and the demo that you got during the E3 week is the game and the demo act as a loyalty discount towards the purchase of Mutant Mudds Super Challenge. So I think it's 15%. Don't hold me to that, but I think it is.
I think that I remember from the Nindies at Home, all those games are 15%.
So if in the first month of the game releasing, if you buy Mutant Mudds Super Challenge on 3DS or Wii U, you'll get, and if you have the demo or the original Mudds on 3DS or Wii U, you'll get the 15% off the full price, and you'll also obviously get both versions of the game. And that's it. And there is no cross-buy for the original Mudds. That ship has sailed. It is what it is. I mean, I guess it could be retro done. I don't know. I actually have no idea. Hadn't even thought about it. No idea. I guess that's possible. Interesting. We could look into that, I guess. I guess that's possible. No idea.
And then this is probably, outside of Treasurenauts, this might be your other favorite question that people ask. M. Schultz E0, I'm probably butchering that name. I assume it's the last name that I'm mispronouncing. Asks, will Mutant Mudds Deluxe or Bomb Monkey ever come out in Europe?
Oh, probably not.
And is the reason for that mostly like the cost of localizing it for Europe and it not necessarily the juice not being worth the squeeze?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, because I know, because Xeodrifter came out recently, and I mean, part of that is also, because I think you made the comment that the sales of Xeodrifter in 1 week did not equal what it did in 1 day in America.
Exactly.
And part of that's also because a couple month difference between the releases, but it just seems like you guys being such a small outfit, it's probably tough doing those kind of global releases, and you can't do both at the same time. So
I mean, I definitely recognize that the delay is a huge factor in the awareness and hype being gone when it's finally released in Europe. But in the same token, to put some of the blame on the players. If you want it, buy it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I get lots of tweets, very angry tweets from Europeans when the game comes out in North America. Did all of those buy the game? I don't know. I'm not sure. I think we probably got more tweets than we got sales in Europe. So, so it's like, I understand that, you know, the hype is gone, but surely you don't buy games just because of hype, right? You buy them because you want them.
Yep.
So, you know, it is what it is. And yes, the sad reality is we can't always do a simultaneous release. And if that is the only reason that these things aren't selling, then unfortunately, oh well, there's not much we can do about that.
Yeah.
It's not a decision. It's just we don't have the resources to do that. However, we are going to try really hard on Mutant Mudds Super Challenge to get the delay in Europe is down to as small as possible. So we're already talking with Nintendo on Nintendo Europe on getting the age rating kind of you know, going as soon as we can on that, because that's the biggest delay and cost. So we want to try and do that, but honestly, it hasn't paid off for us in the past as far as releasing games in Europe. Fair enough, we haven't really given it a fair shake because we haven't released it simultaneously, but we don't really have the resources to do that. So it's like, you know, it would really take a tremendous effort and extra cost to try and pull that off. Will it be financially rewarded, you know, for that effort? I don't know. You know, and when I talk to other developers that, you know, share their stories on things, you know, it's the I'm not convinced that that the sales in Europe would be greatly improved if we had a simultaneous release. Probably somewhat improved, but I don't think it would be like, oh my gosh, that was so worth it. I think it'd be like, oh cool, we got a little bit more, but at the end of the day, was it worth all of that heartache and extra cost and effort to do that? I don't know, and I don't know why that is. I think it's very strange. I don't understand if it's a general thing, if just generally the eShop in Europe is smaller, or if it's certain games that we're making. Weirdly, I mean, I'm obviously a European, so I wouldn't think I'd be making US-centric games, but
Yeah.
maybe I am. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what it is.
Maybe make a soccer game. Maybe
Yeah,
that'll
maybe.
and I just know that FIFA does incredibly
Yeah.
well in Europe. That's like
yeah.
why that game is successful, is because Europe does so well.
Right. So yeah, so it's strange. I mean, and it's frustrating. And honestly, it's really, it just sucks for the players. You know, and I'm you know, I complain about it because people complain to me about it, and I'm a human being, so I'm allowed to complain too. So up yours. So if you know, if people, I get plenty of tweets complaining to me, so I think I have a fair chance to complain myself about everything. But the reality is, it's very annoying because like when you go to, we released, you know, Mudds on the iOS. Dude, that experience was glorious. You get to this screen, right? You're going through the app, whatever, iTunes Connect or whatever the heck it's called, and you're like doing the thing, and you get to this screen where it says, okay, which countries do you want to release this in? And you can go select all, next, and you're done. You are literally done. Now you can release it in multiple countries at one click of a mouse button.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think that's a little bit
get your stuff together, you know?
Just, yeah, I mean, it's a difference. I mean, I think that, I mean, I guess you've worked with Sony platforms as well, and I think it just kind of each one. I mean, I guess Microsoft. I mean, well, Microsoft does have a presence in Europe, but I mean,
I think Xbox One is more global. I think I don't know for a fact, but I think you can go boom. Where do you want to release it? Okay, go. I think it might be more global and less regional.
Yeah, and I mean, and hopefully we're moving towards that, and I think we probably are, but it's just that. Yeah. Nintendo's behind the curve, and I think it's just home consoles. Yeah, Sony's the same way, where it's just that they each have their different divisions. Whereas,
I mean,
yeah, probably Microsoft, because of the fact that they don't really have a Japanese presence. They might be a little more unified than Sony and Nintendo, which have clear divisions in each region.
Exactly. So these companies need to make the effort to make it global, because it just makes it painful and everyone loses. It's annoying, you know. Like,
so how is I mean, I know Mudds 1 came out in Japan kind of recently. How is that done, or is that something you haven't really seen results from yet?
It's done okay. It's done better than Xeodrifter did in Europe, but not as well as Mudds did in the US.
I was downloading Rhythm Heaven on my Japanese 3DS and came across it. I was just like, this is so cool.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, no, it's just really neat to have it there. I mean, we worked with Rainy Frog, and Tony, who runs that company, is a super nice guy. I actually got to meet him at E3, which is really great. He's an American guy who lives in Japan, and he's awesome. And the effort that he's put in and his company's put into releasing it over there has been pretty tremendous. So it's been amazing to work with them. So it's doing okay. I think Japan's a tough market,
Yeah.
especially for foreign games. To come out there, so we did as much as we could to try and localize it, and they made the 3DS theme to release over there as well for the release and stuff. So they put a lot of effort into trying to get it out there. So it's done okay, So we'll see. But it just feels good to have it out there, which is cool, So it was fairly minimal effort to get it out there, which is nice because them as a publisher, they dealt with all of that as far as getting the age rating and dealing with Nintendo Japan and all that kind of stuff. They did all of that, so that was nice.
And I guess kind of what I was going to ask for or ask about, and I guess this can tie into what's on your T-shirt. I'm kind of curious as far as for Mudds. I mean, especially with the multiple layers. How do you go about designing levels for that? Because I know that you're not necessarily a programmer. You're more of a like do you use like Excel? Do you pen to paper it or what?
To make levels for Mudds?
Yeah, and I guess by extension, Treasurenauts as well. But I mean,
Right.
Mudds, especially with the 3 different levels of 3D. Like, how do you kind of put that in a way that makes sense?
They are definitely different approaches. I specifically created a different approach for the level creation of Treasurenauts that maybe we can go into in more detail on a different chat sometime.
I think we got to wrap up after this one.
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, but with Mudds, yeah, it's tricky. With the layer jumping, it was especially tricky because you get to a point on a level, and you're like, great, I'll jump pad here and I'll go back into the background, but you don't. So let me back up. The way the levels are created is you have the background layer, which is actually displayed at kind of 1:1 pixel ratio. It is the full screen resolution. So on the 3DS, it's 400 pixels wide, 240 high. That's literally what the background is, and that's the maximum resolution of the 3DS. So that's what the back layer is. It's just regular 100% layer. And then the layer you start on typically is the middle layer, and that's 200% bigger. So it's actually 200 by 120 technically. But the pixels are twice the size. And then the foreground layer is 300%. Which is whatever, some weird number, as far as the screen resolution. So they're actually, multiplied each time, which is a complete nightmare when you're designing a level because you'll be on this layer and then I need to jump into the background, and I have no idea where that's going to be. Like, how can you even predict what that is? Because the layer's half the size, and you're like, what? And so it's just a lot of trial and error. Unfortunately, you kind of the cool thing is in the level. So the way I create the levels is all it's all digital. It's not on paper. It's all I actually use a program called ProMotion, which is a pixel art program, which is wonderful. So I create everything in that, and then we have a level editor that Matthew created, which I then import the layers into, and then I place collision and enemies and stuff like that in the editor. So I'll start off with the middle layer, for example. I'll get to a point where I'm like, cool, I want to jump into the background or foreground or whatever, and I'll just have to kind of export that level, get to that point in the game, and then I'll have to load up the background artwork in the art program and just slap something down in the background where I think roughly I might be jumping into, and then I can hit a button that then updates the game and updates that artwork, and then boink, it shows up. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I'll move it down until it's lined up perfectly. And then, once it's lined up perfectly, I'm like, oh, great, well, there it is. And then I can go back, and that's a reference point to then kind of build the rest of the level. So it's very strange. And there's no other way of doing it as far as we can figure out. It's like, because of the fact that you're jumping back and the different scale ratios of each layer, it's like, what?
Yeah,
it's a little weird. But even before I get into all of that business, though, I try and think of an anchor of creative idea. Like, what is this level? Like, what, where is it? What's the basic theme of the level? Whether that's an enemy type or a layer thing, that I want to do. You know, try and think of a general theme, whether it be obviously gameplay. It's always gameplay kind of theme of each level. And I try to come up with ideas of that, and especially I did that more so I think with Super Challenge. Let me see if I can find one real quick. So I kind of create a document that has a bunch of random silly ideas, and that helps me kind of have a sense of consistency when I'm creating the whole level. So it's not just a bunch of random encounters back to back. There's a sense of cohesiveness, kind of. Sorry, this is terrible. I'm staring off to the side of the screen. And everyone's like, "What are you doing? It looks so weird."
So,
Anyway,
Treasurenauts release date, huh? No.
All right, here we go. So, and I also have this very sexy looking Excel document, which has all of the enemies listed and all of the levels listed and where the enemies are introduced.
So you have like a good balance, and also knowing like this is when he shows up for the first time.
Exactly. So I'll know that, for example, I don't have it up right now, but I'll know, for example, you know, the Royal Mud with the shield and the sword, he shows up, you know, I think it's in World 3. I can't think off the top of my head because I don't have to, because I have a document. But I'll look at that and go, oh, this is where he shows up. Great. And I'm doing a World 3 level. Therefore, I'm allowed to use him now.
Yeah.
Do I want to introduce him in a certain way? Or with Super Challenge, it was really fun because I was specifically thinking, okay, how can I do something with him and the gameplay ingredients of Mudds that hasn't been done before yet?
That's cool.
So then the player, when they come to it, because the whole point of the game is it's made for fans of Mudds. So I specifically designed for those people. So I specifically wanted to go, okay, well, how can I make sure, assuming that they are intimately knowledgeable about the first game, I need to make sure this isn't a carbon copy of that game with just new artwork. How do I introduce something that's like, oh, that's new. I haven't done that before. And they're tiny, silly little things. You would never write about home about them. You probably wouldn't even notice them. But there's tiny little sprinkles of that throughout the whole game, which when I come up with it, I'm like, oh, awesome. That's different. That's cool.
Call back to this part.
Yay. So there's lots of little sprinkles of that throughout the whole game because that was the whole point of the game. So anyway, so, you know, like, whether I wanted to have a level which was just, you know, like there's one called Stomper Party. So I guess in World, I don't know where that is, what world it is, but you know, and then there's whatever Cloud Blow Pork Job, which is just a nice mixture of the cloud blowers and the pork plop guys, which everyone I'm sure really loves.
The pork plop's the worst.
Yeah, he is. He's horrible. He's awesome.
It was kind of interesting because there was I'm in the Jersey area, and there was a game convention outside of Philadelphia that Antiquates, you know, the guys working on Mighty Number 9 and Bloodstained, they were there and they had a panel. And watching the panel for Mighty Number 9, they actually have their level design. They literally do in Excel and then give it to the people that then like program the levels. Like they showed a PowerPoint slide that was like, yeah, this is what the level works when, you know, the designer first does it, and it was an Excel document that they just marked up.
Like, that makes sense. So yeah, it's like because each block represents a step in progress, and then here's an enemy, and here's a pickup, and blah blah. That makes sense. I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing in ProMotion. You know,
it's just a different program.
Because everything's on a grid, you know, it's an art package, so it looks a lot nicer than Excel because I can actually use the actual artwork. But a lot of times initially it'll just be a single color block. But because it's put on a grid, and that's vital, is, you know, I know that Max, the maximum jump height that he can get up to is 5 8x8s high, you know, and that's the grid resolution that I'm working on is 8x8, 8 pixels by 8 pixels. So I know it can be 8 high and he can jump onto it fine. I think that's correct, but whatever. So it's similar to the Excel. I mean, everything's on a grid and everything's kind of put together. But you have to develop different techniques if there's a designer designing a level and an artist making it look the way it needs to look, where I'm doing both, so I don't have to worry about that. You know, I can just do both at the same time in the art program. Whereas if you have different people doing that, you have to come up with a very different system for that to work. And that's
Now, as someone working on 2D platformers, did you get a chance to check out Super Mario Maker at E3?
I didn't. No, I tried to. I didn't get to check it out. I know.
All right. Well, then when that comes out, hold that
Yeah.
thought. Maybe we'll have you on another one of these, and we can talk about Treasurenauts and the impending release of Mutant Mudds Super Challenge into the Mentium Duo.
Yeah, man.
And we can also talk about your kind of impressions of the creation tools in Mario Maker, because
Yeah,
especially
no,
hearing you talk about how you design them, I'm curious to see how you would think those would match up.
yeah, no, I'd love to check it out. And it looks like it's come such a long way from last year. I
Yeah,
mean, they've added
I mean,
so much stuff.
it's and like even what we saw in the E3 demo, I think there was only a fraction of like the tools that you'll be able to have, because each, like, they do have specific things for 1, 3 World and New Super Mario Brothers, but like I don't think you could do anything with the cape from Super Mario
Hmm.
World in the E3
Yeah.
demo, but they showed video where you can use the cape, and the cape is like the coolest power up ever. So
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
just want to see what people do with that. I don't know how much creating I'm going to do, but I want to play the hell out of that game and
Yeah.
whatever insane things people come up with.
Well, and you can share levels, right?
Yep, it
Yeah.
seems like it's going to be pretty easy to do so.
That's amazing. Yeah. So that's going to be really, really cool. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to check it out. I really wanted to check it out at E3, but it was crazy and I didn't get a
It
chance
was
to.
insanity. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me, and especially I guess rolling with the punches and dealing with Iwata's sad passing, and
Yeah, man.
dedicating part of the beginning of the show. But I'm glad we still got to talk about what you're working on, and some Renegade Kid history.
Yeah, man.
Um,
It's wonderful to chat with you about
yeah,
games and stuff. Yeah, man,
yeah.
definitely.
So maybe in the future we'll have you back, and we can talk more about your Acclaim days and what's going on
Yeah,
with
that'd be fun.
Treasurenauts,
Yeah,
and
definitely, man.
whatever you're playing and checking out.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
And so, just real quick, we are working on Treasurenauts as a very
yeah.
simple, quick. Not, it's not
It,
dead.
it does exist.
It does exist, and
But
that
it's just,
is
I mean, I think we talked about this at E3. It's just the kind of thing that,
yeah,
like, it keeps on being in the background because you keep on having things kind of
yeah,
pop up and take priority.
yeah. And that is now, especially when Mud Super Challenge is done. That's really my main focus, is to get it finished.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
I very much look forward to that, because that demo, for people who've played it at events, or
it's a
for
fun little
people who
game.
haven't played it at events, it looks really fun.
We made that demo so long ago as well. Now it's
I
crazy.
know.
It's so weird. Anyway,
I
yeah.
think I first played that demo 2 years ago.
Yeah, and it's like ridiculous. Oh well, but
All
anyway,
right.
thank you. It was nice to chat with you, man.
Yeah, and you can check out Jools at Jools Watsham on Twitter. Also, Renegade Kid is a Twitter. It's at Renegade Kid LLC.
Hmm.
And if you're curious about any other Nintendo World Report stuff, our Twitter is at Nintendo_NWR. You can follow me on Twitter as well at Enron10. Feel free to leave any comments or questions in the YouTube comments below. And if there's any kind of follow-up questions and stuff, I'll be checking that out, and I can probably bug Jools about it and get an answer out of him if you're so curious. Thank you all for watching. Jools, thank you so much for coming on and talking for way too long about fun stuff.
Thanks, man. I
And
appreciate it, dude.
yeah, see everybody soon. Bye.